Will it mark the end of crypto winter? I think so. The short answer is yes. Bitcoin is cheap. It's not quite the time to close your eyes and buy. Big swing factor is the Clarity Act. I think probably we have seen the lows for the asset valuations. Now's the time to write the big checks. Now's the time to execute the big deals that I've been waiting on.
If you're looking at Bitcoin right now and asking yourself, is this the bottom or am I walking into more downside? Watch this interview. Grayscale's Zach Pandl says that Bitcoin is already cheap, but the real bottom may depend on strategy, the Clarity Act, and whether Wall Street is ready to write the big checks. Zach explains what serious investors are watching before they move. Washington, Ethereum, tokenization, and the return of institutional capital.
A piece that I read recently from you, which is Bitcoin cheap yet?
Yeah.
Is it?
The short answer is yes. Bitcoin is cheap, and there's lots of different, it's exciting to talk about this sometimes. I think sometimes many people think Bitcoin is not an asset that can be valued, but I think over time, as you know, a lot of great analysts that have come before me have come up with clever ways to find good valuation metrics for Bitcoin using on-chain data. And I think the message from those indicators is that Bitcoin is cheap today. It's well below its long-term average on standard valuation indicators, and of course the price has come down a long way. That being said, we're probably not quite as exceptionally cheap as we have been in past episodes. If you look at after the FTX collapse, for example, in the last cycle, Bitcoin got down to levels that those same indicators would say were incredibly cheap. So what does that mean for investors? Our message to our clients is that it's not quite the time to close your eyes and buy. You know, Bitcoin is not so cheap that you just want to kind of go all in almost regardless of what happens. We may get there. I don't think we're quite there yet. So at the moment, it's a time to watch catalysts and react based on those catalysts. If we can see the Clarity Act make progress in the US Senate, if we can see strategy and other DATs stabilize their balance sheets, I would say green light, we probably have reached bottom, even at current levels. But there are some risks. There's a risk that Clarity Act doesn't pass. There is some ongoing risk with strategy, so our clients are closely monitoring those factors. So we may be at a bottom, maybe not. I think we are cheap. I think we're not maybe quite as exceptionally cheap as we've been at some moments in the past.
It's okay for me, I just DCA, so I don't have to think about it.
Great time to DCA into the asset class. I try to give actionable tactical advice to our clients as well on what we're seeing in markets right here and now, and even over the shorter term. But absolutely, that message I would agree with. This is an excellent time, in my view, for investors with a longer term horizon to be DCAing, dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin and other crypto assets. You know, we may not be at the absolute low of the cycle. It could be lower, we'll see. But it's hard to predict these things. And in a longer term sense, these are great levels to be getting involved in digital assets.
On Clarity Act. Firstly, do you think if it were to pass, that acts as kind of the end of crypto winter? And secondly, I think there might be some confusion, and I admit for me too, if it were to pass, what happens next? Are we going to see immediate change?
Yeah. Will it mark the end of crypto winter? I think so, would be my guess, but we will see. You know, markets are challenging calling these things, but that would be my guess. Clarity Act passes, I think probably we have seen the lows for the asset valuations. Things don't change on day one, unfortunately. With the Genius Act, which passed last year, we are still in the rulemaking process. That'll be wrapped up sort of around the end of this year, so 18 months later. That's what you should expect to happen is 18 months or so later, we'll get a full rulebook. What happens, though, is immediately upon passage is institutional builders and allocators having the confidence to make allocations. So I think you will see M&A transactions. I think you will see IPO transactions because the Clarity Act will de-risk the crypto asset class and ensure that we are on this path of more growth, more building here in the United States. That'll be a signal to Wall Street banks, to the bigger players in crypto. Now's the time to write the big checks. Now's the time to execute the big deals that I've been waiting on, that I need to have full confidence to bet the firm on, essentially. I think you will see a lot of those big transactions follow immediately in the wake of Clarity, as you did after Genius Act.
What interests you right now? What are you looking at?
Yeah. Of course, there are so many things. Let me focus on a narrow answer to that question. What is the buzziest thing today? And I would say Hyperliquid is probably the thing that is the most buzzy with our investors today. We recently introduced a new Hyperliquid ETF, Grayscale Hyperliquid ETF. Look, Hyperliquid is really changing the conversation with institutional investors. First off, it's another type of export of crypto technology, traditional finance, perpetual futures in this case, following stable coins, following tokenized assets. I think traditional investors are seeing more and more examples of crypto tech coming to mainstream finance. That's really opening a lot of eyes. And the other piece of it is the revenue story that Hyperliquid brings. A very simple model at some level. It's an exchange, it has a take rate, it captures the revenue, and it drives that value directly to token holders. And so I think another piece of crypto technology, perpetual futures, and the revenue created by trading of those, delivering it to the token, that's made Hyperliquid extremely buzzy with our client base. And I'd say both traditional crypto enthusiasts as well as allocators outside of crypto looking at the asset class for the first time. So there's so many things I'm excited about, but I would say this week and last week, very focused on Hyperliquid at the moment.
We're at ETH conference, so it's only right that I now move the conversation toward Ethereum. What do you make of Ethereum right now? It seems it's in a bit of a strange spot. Not everything's about price, but obviously the price is very depressed. The ecosystem has seen some turbulence. We've seen the Ethereum Foundation turn over a lot of its key people. Is that something you factor in? Are you looking at the whole picture? I presume you are.
We are factoring in all of those variables, but at the same time, we're trying to emphasize what are the most important variables. What are the things that go at the top of the list? And what I would emphasize is what's most important is that tokenization is a mega trend that is going to transform capital markets. And what is that going to mean for blockchains? That's what investors need to ask. And when you look at the blockchain ecosystem today, Ethereum is right at the top of the pyramid. It is the network that has the right architecture. It's designed in the right way to move us in a full way to that vision of peer-to-peer, decentralized, smart contract-based finance. So it's the right network architecture, and it's a leader in all the data metrics that matter in terms of on-chain assets, in terms of stable coins, in terms of stablecoin transactions, in terms of DeFi, TVL, and the richness of the ecosystem. Ethereum is right at the center of that. So our message to investors is that tokenization will be a rising tide that lifts all boats, essentially, in the digital assets ecosystem. And Ethereum is the biggest boat. And so it's a very natural place for institutional allocators to start investing, and for institutional builders to begin investing in the space. So Ethereum, I think, is, in my view, in a great spot in a sense of well-positioned to capture the tokenization megatrend, in fact, better than any other piece of technology in the industry.
It's interesting. Well, I guess the question from the audience might be, what sort of time frame are we looking before we start to see those benefits?
Yeah. Well, that is, I think, a challenging question, to be perfectly honest, and there'll be a variety of phases. But over the short term, the big swing factor is the Clarity Act. That's sort of a short-term catalyst that could put us on a good track, or if it doesn't pass, maybe lead to a slightly longer crypto winter. I think that is, we need to acknowledge that possibility. I'm optimistic. I think this is going to happen. I think Clarity will unlock the tokenization trend in a big way. It's going to sort out what is the regulatory framework of these assets in the United States, and that'll help. Once we get that framework in place, that'll allow issuers to create new tokens. They want to be able to do that in a regulated way, in a compliant way, in a legal way. By creating that traditional capital markets rulebook for tokens, you will allow issuance to increase, and a lot of that issuance will be on Ethereum. So a short-term catalyst will be Clarity. Longer term, this is a longer run vision. I think tokenization is a 10, 20, 30-year process that will change capital markets. It's going to change all of our careers in capital markets, and we're just at the very beginning of that process. So, great place to enter the ecosystem if you're playing for that 10-year or 20-year vision. Tactically, a lot will depend on Clarity, whether the price is going up or going down over the next few months. I think largely determined on whether Clarity Act clears the U.S. Senate.
We can't have a conversation right now in this space without mentioning AI. I had a fantastic conversation yesterday with Joe Lubin about the machine economy that's rising, and he believes that that's going to be the next evolution of the market. What's Grayscale think about AI and its role going forward?
Yeah, there's so much to say about this topic, so let me just give a narrow answer to your question and how maybe Grayscale thinks about it in a distinct way. So we approach crypto as an asset class and think that blockchains have all kinds of different use cases, and they should be divided up into sort of like industries or sectors. So we use a framework that we call crypto sectors. It's sort of an industry classification system like you find in stocks, but for crypto, we developed this with our partners at FTSE Russell, all kinds of index tools and everything built around this framework. So we have an AI crypto sector, a set of protocols that we think are really focused primarily on AI use cases, and those include Bittensor, Near, World, represented here today. Those are some of the leading projects in the AI crypto sector. And that market segment is relatively small today. And so if I'm looking for some of the bigger opportunities in the crypto asset class. Bitcoin is already a big asset class. It's gone an asset's gone a long way. In my view, the AI crypto sector is still an emerging market segment that has huge potential upside. I think there will be $1 trillion asset in that market segment, and there certainly is not yet today. So I'm excited about Bittensor, about Near, about World. As for potential, looking for those types of opportunities, looking for what will be the AI-based oriented crypto project that really runs away with the network effects in that category. It's Bittensor today. That's the category leader today. But I think there still is some room for competition and some other very exciting projects in that market segment.